Namo. Thank you for joining me for our daily practice check-in. Listen, listen, listen. This beautiful sound calls us back to our true home. The third mindfulness training. Aware of the suffering caused by sexual misconduct, I vow to cultivate responsibility and learn ways to protect the safety and integrity of individuals, couples, families, and society. I'm determined not to engage in sexual relations without love and a long-term commitment. To preserve the happiness of myself and others, I'm determined to respect my commitments and the commitments of others. I will do everything in my power to protect children from sexual abuse and to prevent couples and families from being broken by sexual misconduct. For our Dharma lessons, we're reading Ajahn Munindo's book, Unexpected Freedom. Today we're finishing the chapter on getting to know our emotional household. If you were brought up in a rigid and repressive manner, perhaps you were taught that it wasn't okay to feel certain feelings, guilt, for instance. Or if you did feel guilty, you were told you had to go through the formula of asking for forgiveness to get rid of that feeling. If you continued to feel guilty, that meant you were not and could not be part of the club. You were out. You were going down. In my early life, I found that no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't stop feeling guilty. I certainly didn't want to stop doing the fun things that were making me feel guilty, so what was left to do but deny it? Feeling guilty about living is so irrational, and that the rational mind decides to ignore the feeling. Big mistake. As a result, we end up developing a habit of denying whatever it is we are feeling, in this case, the feeling of guilt. In doing this, we deny an entire domain of our lives, not just the painful feelings, but even good feelings we're not free to feel. That's sad. Feelings of guilt, like all emotions, are forms of what we would call heart energy. And when this energy, which in its nature is dynamic, is denied, it will come out in one of two ways, either as excess or as perversion. What might have been a healthy sense of moral shame can thus become a distorted sense of unworthiness. This peculiarly Western mental obstruction is a complex of anger and fear, a sense of righteous anger directed towards ourselves in an attempt to feel good by hating ourselves for being bad. And at the same time, there is a gut-wrenching fear of eternal hell. The good news, however, is that this whole drama is simply waiting to be received into awareness. With sensitivity and strength of heart, born of constant mindfulness practice, we can eventually find a readiness to turn around and meet ourselves. What we discover is the wonderful truth that there isn't anything to be afraid of, nothing at all other than the lack of well-prepared mindfulness. This line of investigation can be applied to all emotions. If, for instance, we push down anger, if we've been taught that good boys and good girls don't get angry, then we might grow up to be afraid of anger. We can be terrified of something that is totally natural. That which we experience as anger is actually our own heart's energy. It is something that we need to be intimately familiar with. We need all our energy for the work of purification. We can't lock away portions of our hearts because we find them disagreeable. We can't afford to entertain feelings of alienation and fear of our passionate nature. If such conditioning goes unrecognized for too long, the energy, hidden and difficult to uncover, will become toxic. We might have to go through a humiliating outburst of anger before we start to suspect that it is there. Or perhaps we experience night after night of violent dreams. If the energy remains unreceived, then the only alternative is a descent, as I mentioned, into perversion or excess. For the more introverted types, in which category most meditators fall, self-loathing is often the norm. I'm worthless, I'm a hopeless case, and I failed at everything. I just put on a face and pretend, but basically I'm damaged goods. I hate myself so much. Or paranoia. Everybody hates me. Everybody is out to harm me. The more extroverted character is likely to fall into expressions of excess like violence and aggression. We can see this in the way people go out on drinking binges or become violent in their relationships or families. Is such ugliness a symptom of people's inherent badness? Not at all. It's a sign that anger has not been understood. Anger, in not being received, is uncontained and dangerous. But the issue is with the relationship we have with the energy, not with the energy itself. As meditators, we really need to understand this, and I believe such understanding can come if we're interested in the actuality of what we call emotions, not merely in conceptualizations of them. If we embark on such an investigation, we will not only come to a greater personal sense of contentment, but we may also find a clearer appreciation of why our world is such a strange place and what we can do to help it. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. Namo Adida Phat. Thanks so much for joining me today.